Hi, and welcome to Unorthodox Cooking. This is a channel that helps you make anything you like with a few simple ingredients the easiest way possible, and it still turns out pretty great, even if I do say so myself. Now, this is a recipe for Melomakarona. It's a Greek, it's like a cake, but it's an individual sort of serving each one, and it looks like really cute little rolled up little buns dusted in crumbed walnuts or any other nuts that you actually like. I prefer walnuts or almonds, they're my favourite. So anyway, so this is unorthodox cooking my way, and what I've done is I've thrown most of the ingredients into this pan. The reason I've done that is because it's easy and it works. So I'll just scroll through a list of the ingredients in the front and I'll just go through them for you. So you've got the mixed peel, you've got your caster sugar. I love brown sugar, ran out, sorry. Use whatever I had in the cupboard. I've got vanilla. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that because I sort of like the clove and cinnamon taste, which you're going to see coming up. Semolina, absolutely critical. Nah, just kidding. You can substitute with flour. There you get the clove and the cinnamon. Orange juice, just whatever's left in the fridge. Even if it's in date is probably better, but best before is okay too. Baking powder. The extra virgin olive oil. First press is pretty desirable. This is optional, the beer. Not for me because I absolutely love the taste. And corn oil is substitute sometimes, so I just put a bit of glucose, more for flavour. Can live without it. Of course, the white flour, which goes last. And then we have a syrup, which if you have a cinnamon quill, chuck it in. If not, just put a teaspoon of cinnamon into the mix. So half sugar, half brown sugar, and a quarter of Greek honey. You can choose any honey that you like, whatever you like, and then crushed nuts to roll on top. So they're the ingredients. They're all optional, except if you really want to make it and you're down to your last bit, you probably would need the sugar, the semolina, the cinnamon, the cloves, orange or orange juice, olive oil. Now there's one thing that's not here, and that is half a stick of lightly salted butter. I like a little bit of a salt tickle to my sweets, so that's what I've done here. Okay, next thing. We went to the batter. The batter. I've already put the semolina in, and I've stuck it on the heat, just gently, because it melts all the ingredients together, and when you mix it, it gives a nice infusion. All the smells start to come out into the actual batter. Now once you finish doing all of this, all that's really left is adding in the white flour. Ta-da! So you pour that in until you get a batter-like consistency, and then once we get the batter going, it's really thick. You'll need to knead it with your hands. Use some oil on your hands, it's always a great trick, my mum taught me that. And then roll them up into a little thing. I'll discuss that a little bit later, but right now I'll get to making the dough up and I'll show you a bit more. Just as I mentioned before, the semolina is a little bit tougher. It needs a little bit of warmth to make sure it opens up, and I'm just pouring in and stirring with a hand mix. You can use a mixer if you're lazier than I am. I actually couldn't be bothered cleaning the mixer, so I just use that. I can chuck it in the dishwasher anytime I like. So you can see the dough is just starting to come together, and in a couple of minutes I'll work it a bit more with the whisk. You could use a spoon if you want to. I'm just doing whatever's easier. So I'll start again when I've really worked it in, and I'll show you again how it looks. So as you can see, the dough is starting to take on a more dough-like consistency. You notice I didn't measure anything? Guess why? I do everything to taste. So if I taste it and I like it, I make it a little bit sweeter than it needs to be because the dough picks up a lot of the sweetness. As long as the flavour tastes really good when you've got it in the batter stage, just a little bit more powerful than you'd like in the cake, it's going to turn out really well. So it's a really light, fluffy consistency. It's like marshmallow because what's happened is the beer has made it rise, as well as all the baking powder, and it's just a wonderful, easy dough to work with. You can see all of the peels. I don't grate. I just buy anything I can, whatever's ready, and just chuck it in. And it always, well, nearly always, I've had some disasters. It pretty much always works out well, and I've managed to recover those disasters. So if you're a creative and resourceful person, I'm sure you'll come up for an excuse of why they're not so good, or hide it with some other nice flavour. Usually, if you cover it with chocolate, it's always forgivable. That's my number one rule. So you can see here, our dough is lovely and is ready to be kneaded out. I put it on a stainless steel bowl and I put it on my oven, and you'll see it's a little bit crazy because I wiped it down earlier. But yeah, that's why it's nice and warm. Now I don't need to do anything other than shake them. So I've got my baking tray ready, and I'm about to grab a scoop and just roll them. I'm going to set up the iPad so you can see how I do it, and you can choose to ignore any part of this recipe that you like. So there they are, as you can see. I'll just let them out in a little tray. I've got a Smeg oven. I'm not bragging, but it'll cook pretty quickly, but you can put it in any oven, even a convection microwave, and it'll always turn out fine. You know it's cooked when it's a little bit firm to the touch and it's a light golden brown colour. Don't worry too much about not going too dark, because the syrup tends to make it even darker still. So as you can see, there's plenty more mix in the bowl, so I'm going to get cracking and finish the rest. And then after that, I'll start the syrup, because the syrup has to be poured onto the Melomakarona when they're cold, but the syrup warm. So that'll take a bit of time. So as you can see...
Can I have this dough?
What dough?
This dough.
Why?
It's yum.
Alright. My kids usually eat everything I make before it's cooked for some reason. So as you can see, they're puffing up really big, so I've decided to make smaller ones. So I'll just show you a tray of the small ones. Also, the other ones lost their little dots, so I just put a fork right through them just gently and made sure I poked holes in them so that the nuts sit on top okay. Okay people, it's time to make the syrup, and I've just used the last bit of my brown sugar. I won't have that cup of coffee because I love that lovely malt flavour that brown sugar brings. But I'm going to have to use some leftover white sugar that I've had in the fridge for a good 6 months. So, yep, just pour all the things in, a little bit of water, cup of water, make sure it's all diluted. Heat it till it bubbles, changes colour a little bit, and you need a little bit of cinnamon and stuff, and I will come back in a second and I will show you the rest. So as you can see, I've got honey, and that was 3 large tablespoons poured out. Half of a lime, because it didn't have lemon, just squeeze that in. And you could use orange as well if you want to, if you haven't got anything citrus on you. A tiny bit of cloves, you can put whole cloves in, and a fair bit of cinnamon. I put extra on the bottom with the brown sugar, but I decided to put a bit more so it shows up so you can remember what you put in it. Next I'm going to put the water. You can put a dash of vinegar if you don't have any citrus stuff. So the acid's just a stabiliser so that the toffee gets all nice and gooey. Did I say toffee? I didn't mean to say that. If you cook it so that it's toffee, you've gone too far. Alright then, let's get this to boil. Okay, I put the water in and you can see it's a fair bit. I need a lot of sauce because I've got to soak a lot of the cakes into the syrup. So we're going to let that boil and simmer down, and I'll show you when it's ready. Another yummy unorthodox thing we do in my family is we make little dumplings with the leftover batter in the syrup, and they taste really, really yummy. You know that they're ready when they puff up and they float to the top. And it won't hurt your syrup, but it is something really awesome to try. So you can see the sauce is thickening because the white bubbles are starting to slow down and they're not sticking up to the top nice and hard before. Turn down the heat and just let it go. First batch is ready, just looking absolutely yummy. Wow, my son's actually finally, after 4 hours of asking, is doing the laundry. Woohoo! It's my lucky day. The next batch is in the oven, and these are going to cool, and then I'm going to dip them into the syrup and sprinkle them with nuts. By the way, they don't stick. They all move freely. Okay, so that's the syrup ready. I wasn't getting the flavour that I liked for the honey. It was a little too sugary, so I opened up the tin of Greek honey and added another 2 tablespoons of honey, and it is just to die for now. It's still warm, shouldn't be hot, but you can let it cool and then heat it up again when you're ready to do the dips, and I'll do that when I feel like it, eh? So I'll get back to it, and I'll be back with the soaking. Okay, so these guys are cooled, so I'm just going to pick one up and I'm going to bring it over to the hot syrup and I'm just going to bathe it in there. You can do more than one at a time. The syrup's nice and warm. Just make sure it drinks it all up. So the goal is to soften it and to make sure that the rock hard coating goes nice and soft. Sound like a snake there. Anyway, just love it a little. I'm only going to do one so that you can see how it's done, just for the sake of doing this one. And then I'm going to put the camera down and finish mine. So I'm making these for Christmas because I'm having a big do over my house. My house is just a little bit bigger. Not bragging, just a fact, than everybody else's, so we tend to come around here and it's made for entertaining. So here we go, we've got the syrup in. I might put it in a little bit more. Da, 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 da. There's no hard and fast rules. It is floating like something I shouldn't really say when you're cooking. So after you've done that, take it out, give it a little drain, and then over to the crushed nuts. So what I do is I bring it over to the, whoops, nearly lost it, crushed nuts, tip it over, give it a little roll, and after I give it a little roll, looks coated nicely. Put it there, and then I grab a little bit more and I sprinkle it on top. There you are. Once I finish, I also give it a little tiny drizzle of honey just because I love the flavour so much. I'll give another quick squeeze when I finish the whole platter, and then we should be able to sign off and you can make your own. Isn't that going to be exciting? Any way you like. So as you can see, I've got them in the sauce. I just leave them in there to drink as much as I like. You might think they might get too sweet, but they actually don't. They turn out just right. Some people actually want them a little bit sweeter, and you can actually drizzle a bit more on top. I'm one of those people because I don't put a lot of sugar actually into the batter, and I like the syrup to make up for that. So the way you can tell that they're ready is you push them down and no little air bubbles come out. The pot's on 1 or 2, setting of 1 or 2, so a low setting to make sure it stays warm. Then I bring it over to the nuts and I tip it upside down and I give it a good shove. Make sure it gets a good little bit of coating on it. I also like the nuts to be coated as well in a little bit of toffee. So get that one out, put the rest. Use your fingers if you want. That works best for me. I just top it up on top. So as you can see, I've made a few more, and later on I'll just give a bit more nuts and a little bit more syrup and I'll be done and I'll go into the fridge ready to eat. I hope you've enjoyed listening to how to cook this unorthodoxly but much easier and heaps of fun and in your own time when you need to. See you later. Okay, I've got the first batch in the oven and I've preheated it to 180 degrees. This one will take probably 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes 40 depending on your oven. This is a fan force, so 170 is okay, but I'm always in a rush for everything I've got to do, so I've put the heat up a little bit. Because it has a soft center in the middle, it doesn't really worry me too much because the syrup will make it soggy as well.